So I'm right here where a goal kick would be taken. I'm gonna be kicking that ball right there, wearing my Serafino 4th Edge toe punt boots, and I'm gonna be trying to basically kick it as far as I can. That wall, as a reference, is the halfway line. So let's see what we can do here. What's going on, guys? Josh from soccerreviewsforyou.com, bringing you a video today to give my review of quite possibly the weirdest soccer cleat that I've ever worn, the Serafino 4th Edge, aka the toe poke boots. I hope you guys enjoyed the playtest part of this review, because I can honestly say it was very embarrassing to make. I'm at this facility, there are other people there watching what I'm doing, especially because I have cameras out there on the field that automatically makes people very interested, but they don't know that I'm wearing Serafino 4th Edge toe poke boots. So all they're seeing is me repeatedly missing the net, shooting toe punt free kicks from 30 to 35 yards out, but you gotta do what you gotta do, I guess. Also, if you guys enjoyed the playtest series on my channel and want to see more of them, be sure to support this one with a like. And if you're watching for the first time, you've enjoyed what you've seen so far, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for daily videos on all the latest and greatest soccer gear and stuff like this. Let's start by breaking down exactly what these are. This odd looking piece of footwear is called the Serafino 4th Edge. Serafino being the brand, 4th Edge being the model. It is, at this point in time, the only shoe you can buy from the brand, and its claim to fame, the unique element that it has on offer that you can't get from any other shoe, is the toe poke element right here at the toe. This weird looking piece at the front is their patented concave rubberized toe area, essentially a protective toe cap that does just that, protect your toes, but also make these optimal for kicking the ball with your toe literally as hard as you want without feeling any pain at all, which is something I was skeptical of. I thought for sure it would hurt at least a little bit, but honestly, it does not hurt at all. I kicked the ball with my toe as hard as I could, probably about 200 times during the testing of these, and honestly, not once did I have any issues with pain whatsoever. Why would you want to do that? Well, we'll get to that in just a second. The boots themselves retail for 99 pounds, which at the moment converts to about 135 US dollars. not particularly cheap considering the overall quality, which honestly I don't think is all that great. It's pretty subpar for a shoe at that particular price range, but it's also the only shoe that features a toe punt element. Not to be too harsh on the quality, because honestly they feel much better than they look, but immediately when I first saw these in person, they reminded me of some boots that I bought at Walmart about a year ago. They feel better, but they look like Walmart boots. The upper itself is entirely made out of a synthetic leather material, and it has a good amount of padding to it overall. The shoe, not to say that it feels bulky, but it definitely feels bulkier than what you'll find from most other top-end models these days. Even the tongue itself has a significant amount of padding that again kind of reminds me of what you would find on a lot of lower-end shoes, but the idea of being as protective as possible is something that Serafino was really going for with this particular design, according to the information that they have on their website. The sole plate and stud pattern is arguably the most premium aspect of this shoe, this being the multi-ground variation, which is basically made for artificial grass. I wouldn't really recommend using this stud pattern on natural grass. It's not going to provide very much traction, but for use on artificial grass, you can see the design of the studs and the general layout is not too far off from what we used to see from Nike with their AGR stud patterns. You can also get this in a bladed firm ground stud variation if you need a pair specifically for use on firm natural grass. As far as weight is concerned, you probably wouldn't expect these to be very light, and that's because they aren't. In a size 8 UK, they weigh in at about 9.8, 9.9 ounces, which is by no means super heavy, but again, in comparison to most top-end models, they are heavier than most. From a comfort, fit, and sizing standpoint, these are more comfortable than I was expecting them to be. Yes, the materials aren't overly high quality. They don't feel super premium on feet, but there's nothing about the upper that is overly stiff. There's a decent amount of padding, which adds to the comfort as well. And really the only thing that I noticed the first time that I put them on is that you kind of feel this top piece of the toe cap that kind of hangs over the top of your toes, pressing against the top of your toes for about the first 10 minutes or so. But once you get used to the way that the shoes feel in general, it's something that stops bothering you entirely. And really, I didn't have any issues with discomfort during the break-in process. As far as width is concerned, they have a pretty wide fit overall. Therefore, I think they will fit most people pretty comfortably, and given that you have a nice deep lacing system, you can adjust them pretty well in terms of getting them nice and tight where you need them to be. And as far as the sizing is concerned, I went with an 8 UK, which is the equivalent of an 8.5 US or European 42, and that's because it was pretty much my only option, given that they only make these shoes in full sizes. No half sizes available as of right now, so you have 7 to 11 UK as sizing availability. It does say on their website that more sizes will be available soon. I'm not sure how soon that might be, but as of right now, full sizes only, and they do run true to size. Now, when you first start playing this game, there are very likely two things that your coach told you right off the bat, and that is 1, don't use your hands unless you're the goalkeeper, and 2, don't kick the ball with your toe. The reason why you're told not to kick the ball with your toe is 1, it's not the proper way of doing things, and 2, once you actually get strong enough to generate enough power, even if you're not that strong, you can actually hurt your toes by kicking the ball with your toe, especially if you're doing it on a consistent basis. However, the Serafino 4th Edge basically sets out to change that rule. This actually promotes kicking the ball with your toe, and it protects your toes extremely effectively. Now, in my opinion, there are two main reasons why you might want to toe poke the ball. Regardless of whether or not you're wearing toe poke shoes, it can actually be a beneficial skill. Now, imagine that you're at full stretch, perhaps inside the 6-yard box, you're really close on goal, you're in tight with a defender, you don't necessarily have proper body position or even time or space to line up a proper strike, maybe not even with the side of your foot, but you can toe poke the ball really quickly into the empty goal. That is one instance where you would want to use a toe poke type kick. The second reason why you might want to toe poke the ball is, again, when you're inside the 18-yard box, really tight space, and you just want to generate a lot of power with minimal backlift, perhaps not even a run up, and just get it on goal as quickly and as hard as possible. That's where a toe poke can definitely be your friend. With that said, do you really need a product like this to be effective in those types of situations? I'm not so sure. So in order to properly review the Serafino 4th Edge, I'm gonna go over the pros and the cons, and then we'll come to a final verdict. Pro number 1 is actually something that Serafino lists on their own website, and I definitely think there is some truth to it with this particular product, and that is that you can generate more power with minimal backlift, meaning that you have a very short swing just kicking the ball with your toe versus a full-length swing that would be required in order to do a proper strike. You need more time, you need more space. It requires arguably even a little bit more technique rather than just kicking the ball with your toe. However, I will say this, kicking the ball with your toe on purpose, when you've basically taught yourself to kick the ball properly over all these years of training, is a very, very awkward thing. So I don't think that Serafino necessarily meant to be kicking the ball with your toe from 30 yards in a free kick type situation. However, I think in the hands of perhaps a less experienced player, somebody that doesn't necessarily have proper technique developed, I think they legitimately would kick the ball better in a product like this versus somebody that has a little bit more experience. However, if toe poking the ball is something that you really value in your game, these legitimately will make your toe pokes more powerful with less backlift. Pro number 2, and this is also something that Serafino lists on their website as a benefit to their product, is that you'll instantly become a two-footed player. And the logic behind that is part of the reason why you can't kick the ball with your weak foot as you can with your strong foot is because your technique isn't as good, the motion isn't as fluent, it's not as smooth, it just feels weird. It takes a lot of practice to get your weak foot as good as your strong foot, and even with all the practice in the world, it's probably never gonna be as good as your strong foot. However, toe punting the ball is a lot easier. It doesn't require as much technique, it doesn't require as much practice or as much skill. So the logic is in saying that your weaker foot will instantly become better is because you kind of just swing your leg forward, kick it with your toe, and technically you're going to be almost just as good as your strong foot. Not necessarily, but that's kind of the logic that they're going off of. I do agree with this to a certain extent, in that yes, it is easier to kick the ball with your weak foot with your toe rather than with proper technique. However, I don't necessarily think that buying a product like this to avoid learning how to kick the ball properly with either your strong foot or your weak foot is necessarily a good thing. Pro number 3, also according to Serafino, is that these will offer better comfort. And I think the shoes as a whole are fairly comfortable, but to say that they are more comfortable than any other shoe, I think is just straight up not true. However, from the standpoint that you kick the ball with your toes a lot, these will definitely be a lot more comfortable than any other shoe because you have this significant amount of protection. And finally, pro number 4 is just that, protection. This is easily by far the most protective boot on the market right now. Not only when you're just talking about the upper materials themselves being thicker, more padded in general, you have the big padded tongue. There's a lot of protection should you get stepped on in that area of the foot, but the toe cap offers a ton of protection. Again, being able to kick the ball with your toe as hard as you possibly can without hurting your toes or your foot in general. It's something that I've never experienced in any other shoe. And even should you get stepped on in this toe cap area, it's going to protect you. So if protection is something that you really are after and you can, I guess, handle wearing something like this, then by all means, buy the Serafino 4th Edge. It legitimately is the most protective boot out there. Which brings us to the cons. Con number 1 being simply the way that these look. And this has nothing to do with performance. Obviously, the looks of any product is purely subjective. Everyone's gonna have their own opinion, but I don't think that there are too many people that are gonna say that this is a good looking shoe. I'm sure the comments are already riddled with people saying that these are the ugliest, weirdest looking shoes that they've ever seen. So if you can't handle that, probably not a good purchase for you. And I can tell you that I did wear them in public with other players around one time, and I felt really, really weird. Everyone gave me strange looks. Some of the guys knew who I was, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But just expect that if you're wearing the toe poke boots, you might get made fun of. People are gonna look at you weird, and if you can't handle that judgment on a regular basis, probably not the right product for you. Con number 2 is that these actually make your feet bigger, but without being able to feel that your feet are bigger. Let me explain what I mean. If you look at the base of the sole plate, that would basically be the end of your foot for any shoe at all, except for these. You can see that this rubber toe cap actually extends further out and it even adds width to the side. If you look at from here to here, that's quite a bit of extra material. And basically the toe cap from the sole plate forward, that's all solid rubber. You don't feel any of that on your foot. So essentially your feet, my feet at least, go from a 9 US to about a size 10 US, and that actually makes a bigger difference than you might expect. you teach yourself to do all these skills and all these movements with such precision that even making your foot that much bigger that you can't actually feel makes a really big difference in terms of just stumbling when you wouldn't normally stumble, or kicking the ground when you wouldn't normally kick the ground. And I kind of had that worry in the back of my mind when it came to striking the ball. Obviously when you're kicking it with your toes, it's not an issue whatsoever. But when it came to normal strikes, I always had that fear in the back of my mind that my toe was going to hit the ground and I was going to hurt my ankle or hurt my knee or something like that. It never actually happened, I will say that much, so credit to Serafino on that. However, it's something that I could never really get used to, and it just felt weird simply because it is so much different from any other shoe that I've worn. I will say that when it came to trying to shoot an outside bend, I just felt like the toe was kind of in the way for me. It didn't feel right, but that's something that, again, is going to be a very unique quirk specific to this shoe. So if that's something that doesn't sound good to you, probably not a great idea to buy these. Con number 3, and this is something again that just takes some getting used to, I found these super weird when it came to juggling the ball. I felt like when I juggled the ball, parts of my foot that would make contact with the ball first were no longer making contact first because this toe cap was making contact, and there's not really much feel to the toe cap when you're making more subtle touches. So that I found was a little bit strange. When you're actually shooting the ball, you will find that with a regular strike, because you have that extra length to your foot, sometimes you'll actually catch the top of your the toe cap, and it is actually beneficial. But when it comes to more precise touches on the ball, especially when juggling, you can get used to it for sure, but it definitely feels really weird in comparison to a normal boot that wouldn't have a rubber toe cap. My final con also has to do with the toe cap, and that is the fact that you can actually feel the weight of the toe cap when your foot is in the air, specifically when you're trying to do stuff like step overs or more precise skill moves. Typically the heaviest part of the shoe is going to be through the midfoot and the heel because that's where the most material is. Usually the toe and forefoot is the lightest part of the shoe, where you have the thinnest material that's all based around touch. This, however, has this rubberized toe cap that isn't excessively heavy. The overall weight of the shoe is only 9.9 ounces. It's kind of the same in weight in comparison to something like Copa Mundial, which is obviously not a lightweight shoe, but because you have this rubber almost like as a counterweight at the tip of your toe, it just adds weight and makes the shoe feel different than any other shoe that I've ever worn. Again, this is not something I would say is detrimental to the performance. You definitely could get used to this. But again, I think if you're into skill moves, which I'm not sure if you're into skill moves, you're going to be into something like this. They do feel a little bit strange because of that extra weight added to the tip of your toe. So as a final verdict on the Serafino 4th Edge, I have a few things to say. The first being that these weren't as bad as I was expecting them to be. However, do I think that having this toe punt element on the front of your shoe is going to benefit your performance in any significant way at all? Probably not. As weird as they look and as goofy as they are, this is actually not a bad product. From a protection standpoint, like I said, this is by far the most protective boot on the market right now. So if you struggle with getting stepped on a lot, or you need some extra protection for your toes, for whatever reason, this will provide that more so than any other shoe out there right now. So if protection is what you're after, this is probably what you want, maybe. What I don't like about the Serafino 4th Edge, and really the way that they're trying to promote this product, is that they're basically saying, buy our shoe because you're not gonna have to learn proper technique in order to achieve decent power when striking the ball, because you're just striking the ball with your toe using their hard rubberized toe cap mounted to the front of their fairly subpar boots. If we're being honest here, I think that if you're committed to playing this game and getting as good as you possibly can get with more and more practice, learn proper technique, train your weak foot, learn to shoot the ball properly. This is something that's legitimately important to learn. I don't think that you should use a product like this as a shortcut to get a more powerful shot, because you can now kick the ball with your toes as many times as you want without breaking them, which you wouldn't be able to do in a regular pair of cleats. There's a very good reason why we don't see professional players kicking the ball with their toe as hard as they can pretty much ever. It's not a viable technique. Yes, toe poking is part of the game, but I don't think it's as big a part of the game that would require something like this to actually exist and be beneficial to your performance. Something else that struck me as a potential concern for this product, especially if you plan on wearing them in games, is that they are weird looking shoes with this squared off flat toe. It's not a flashy color at all, but people definitely notice when you're wearing these, which means opposing players are gonna notice, opposing coaches and spectators are going to notice, and guess who they're going to notify? The referee. And what are they gonna say to that referee? They might say that this is potentially dangerous to them, just because it is legitimately hard. And I can see the referee feeling this with his fingers. And yes, it's rubber. It's got a little bit of, I guess, kind of give to it, but for the most part, it's pretty hard. I would say that if you kick somebody with your toe with this particular shoe versus a regular soccer cleat, this is going to do more damage, especially because you have such a large surface area. I understand that it's not meant for kicking people, it's meant to kick the ball. However, trying to explain that to a referee who's trying to tell you that you can't wear these in a game might be a little bit more of a difficult situation. And that pretty much concludes my review of the Serafino 4th Edge. It's a very usable product, but not one that I necessarily think needs to exist. Anyways, guys, that is it for my review. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, be sure to support it with a like. If you have any questions at all or requests for future playtest videos, leave those down below in the comments and I'll do my best to get an answer out to you as soon as I possibly can. Subscribe if you haven't already for daily videos on all the latest and greatest soccer gear. You can find all my social media information linked down below in the description as well. And other than that, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.